G'day coaches, Carl and Lockie here from Athletes Authority. And in today's Valid Performance webinar, we want to help you pivot your business online. And we're going to share with you some of the practical strategies that we use in order to make that happen. Lockie, do you want to intro or say anything before we jump in?
No, we'll let you get started because it's a quick one from us today, guys. Hopefully under 20 minutes, we'll see how we go.
And Lockie's not used to talking for any less than an hour, and I ramble too. So we'll jump right in. So our objective in a time like this, it's chaotic, it's uncertain, none of us really know what's going on, is to go back to the basics. And that's really going to be the theme of our presentation today. We're going to talk about the basics when it comes to business and how to kind of get a grips of that. And then also the basics as it comes to programming, being a coach, which is obviously sounds simple, but what we've realized is common sense isn't necessarily common practice. And we want to make sure that you actually put these ideas into practice. So we're always going to be distilling it back to some examples and some practical solutions for you. So if you haven't come across our Fitness MBA, it's a free course that teaches the 5 cardinal rules of business. And these are what they are. The first is that you need to create and deliver something of value. And that's essentially to say that you need to solve a meaningful problem for your clients and your athletes. The second law or rule of business is that it needs to be something that people want and that they need. And then you also need to be able to obviously communicate that and market that. The third is you need to do it at a price that they're willing to pay for. And whilst, there is price elasticity and you can charge more for some things than others, it needs to be within some type of bandwidth that is reasonable, especially given the current financial constraints of a lot of people. The fourth is that you need to, especially in times like this, absolutely exceed their expectations when you deliver that service. And then finally, it needs to make sense for you financially to continue to stay operational. And that is essentially what we've gone back to, these fundamental rules of business in a time like this, and gone back to basics. And we're going to show you how to do that right now. So if you think about the problem that they're in, athletes are in, clients are in, you're probably going to find that the problems they're experiencing prior to COVID-19 and the problems that they're experiencing during COVID-19 and the problems that they'll experience post-COVID-19 aren't all that dissimilar. And these problems aren't really all that novel. Whilst obviously they've lost gyms and sports being cancelled, the fundamentals still remain. So that means that your offer and what you package together doesn't really need to change that much. Obviously, you need to be adaptable, you need to be agile, but you need to go back to the core problems that your athletes or your clients have and then package something together that solves those problems for them. So the first step is to kind of reevaluate what your offer is. And I'm going to give you a little strategy to kind of make that easier for you. So when you start to communicate this to your clients and your athletes, that you can do so more effectively. So as I mentioned before, an offer, or when you package something up of value, it's always going to be centered around solving a relevant, a timely, and a meaningful problem to your market. Now, your market might be general pops. In our case, it's obviously athletes. But either way, it's always going to be around solving meaningful problems, because that's what people pay for solutions for. They have a problem and they need a solution. So you need to be the catalyst that creates that solution for them and transforms them from their current state to their kind of more desirable intended state. So here's a little strategy that I have for you here. What I want you to do, so I want you to make a list of all the problems that your athletes or clients, if you're working with general pops, had prior to COVID-19. Accountability, poor training plans, poor nutrition, whatever those things are, all the problems that they experienced, perhaps even all the mistakes that they made as well. And then what I want you to do now, once you've done that, might take you 5 minutes or so. I then want you to write next to that in a separate column, what are their problems now in post COVID-19 or during COVID-19? And what we'll probably find is that most of those things haven't really changed, which hopefully begs the question for you. What do I need to change? Can I actually just reevaluate somewhat, pivot slightly, and still deliver incredible value to my clients, to my athletes? And hopefully then, you know, if you're delivering value, they can give you something back, which is usually financial stability. So when we did this for us, really the only thing that changed is that they no longer had a gym. And Lockie's going to go over kind of what we did there to make that more possible for them. But outside of not having a gym, nothing else really changed. So hopefully that gives you a bit of confidence that there is still a lot of opportunity here. So when you do finally kind of figure out what problems you're going to solve for your athletes and your clients during COVID-19, when you package it all together, here's a little tip. It's an acronym called SIN. What we really want to do is make your offer superior than everyone else's in the market, certainly at least what your clients and your athletes are exposed to. So if you can kind of have a look at those, that clientele you've got, have a look at all the different competitors and create something that's superior to your competitors, and you're on a really good wicket. Oh, and I'm not done there. Don't get too excited, Lockie.
I apologize.
Can we send you back, big boy? Thanks, mate. That's S. I is irresistible, and that's what I've said there. It needs to kind of tick all their boxes. It needs to hit their emotional side of things as well, so they simply can't resist jumping on board. And then finally, N, it's a no-brainer. You want to try and reduce the risk for them as much as possible. So what we essentially did is we said, look, nothing really needs to change. You know, we will allocate the time that you're spending with us during COVID to your contracts. You're not going to extend your contracts. We're going to reduce your risk. You know, we're going to slightly reduce the price as well, and make this a no-brainer for you to want to stay. Because realistically, in 6 months' time, when sport kind of comes back, you can be in one of two positions. You can be 10 steps backwards, or you can be 3 steps forward. Which one would you like? So once we kind of framed it in that way, it seemed like a no-brainer for them to kind of lock down the gains they'd already had in our facility and continue moving forward. So jump on there. The second step is to market to your existing customer base. So now that you've got an offer, now that you know what you want to do, whether it's hybrid coaching like we've done, where there's some one-on-one outside, there's virtual training, there's accountability coaching, all that jazz. Once you know what you're going to do, you've obviously got your current clients, your current base, but you've got your old base as well. And there is not a better time to go out and reach out to all those people and see how they're going. Actually generally check in with them and see if they have a solution for this new problem that they're facing, which is no gym, kind of a lack of direction. So as I mentioned, go through your old phone list. We printed off our old member reports of all the cancelled or expired athletes that have been with us over the past 3 years. And I unashamedly, indiscriminately started reaching out. Obviously, I've interacted with these guys. I know them by name, and we do have an existing relationship, so that makes it easier, but so should you. And if you can lead with empathy and be genuinely interested, I'm going to give you a few examples, you should see some pretty incredible responses. So here's some of the outcomes that I had. So, you know, you can see here, I've sent on the left a message to a mum of an athlete who, you know, is now kind of in Opens Rugby, isn't working with us anymore. I checked and said, you know, Joe, how is everything going with Seb? I really miss him. I hope he's okay. I know he had a home gym, which we then found out through this interaction during this COVID crisis that actually sold their equipment and donated it to the Tongan rugby team, I believe. So they were without equipment, they were out without program, they were without coaching, and Seb in Opens Rugby really wanted to try and you know, progress forward. And me reaching out was a catalyst for them to say, oh my gosh, I would love your help. I would love for you to organize an equipment package like we'll talk about a bit later on. I would love to join your program. So, you know, what we actually found is when we started speaking to our customer base, we reinvigorated and kind of re-signed a whole bunch of athletes that were not currently working with us, which is pretty amazing. You'll see another one here with Barry Donnelly, the father of one of our athletes. He says here, you know, I've checked in with him, as you can kind of see up the top. If you find that she's at a loose end, that's Emma, the daughter. Would still love to be able to help. We're still operational. We're doing things as it may be. And he's responded, you know, look, I've been thinking of you and I'd love for you to kind of help out Emma. I'm back on in. And you can kind of see all these examples. And this happened, you know, we signed quite a few athletes on as a result of this, which is unreal because, you know, we're helping them. So make sure that you do that. And obviously you'll get kind of video responses, which we don't even have to play.
I hope you're doing well. I'd just like to say that I miss you a lot for the past couple of months. And I hope you're doing well with your gym being closed. Hope you're staying strong.
For the sake of brevity, we'll keep going.
For the sake of brevity, but the point is, what I'm trying to say there is that you can actually make a really meaningful impact on their lives when you reach out. These are old clients of ours that we reached out to and look at the effect there. So obviously lead with empathy. We're all struggling. And if you can kind of reach out and say, hey, I can help, you might find that they can help you too. Okay, so I'm already running out of time. So I'm gonna start charging along here. So step 3, you need to sell your offer. Now, this is not the time to be worried about being a salesperson. Now, naturally, I'm a natural born salesman, and it does make this easier. But if you don't sell your offer with confidence to, ex-clients and whoever it might be, some other moron who's going to do a way worse job than you will do it instead. And they'll be working with them instead. So this is not the time to be worried about what kind of person you want to be perceived as. You want to make sure that you get in front of those people and offer them something that they can't refuse. So please do not be scared of being a salesperson this time. It's literally going to burn your back pocket. It's the one thing that you can do that will really impact your livelihood, is to be scared of selling and putting yourself out there. So as I said, this is not an isolated issue, and don't take your customer loyalty for granted. They do want to help. And so if you can help them, you can lead with some kind of value, then I'm sure they'll want to help you back. And that's just a little tip that, if you can try and come across as a leader, try and guide them, try and be the mentor, then it's going to make your sales process a little easier. But in the interest of brevity, we'll keep charging forward. So step 4, obviously, you've got to deliver on your promise. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because that's really Lockie's job. Lockie's job is service delivery and writing the programs, delivering to the athletes, coaching them, supporting them, being their accountability. But ultimately, from a business standpoint, service delivery is all about delivering on your promise and then exceeding on that promise that you make. So, whilst you might not be able to be a coach on the gym floor right now, you can certainly be a coach outside of the gym. And you'll find that your interactions with your athletes and your clients can still be something meaningful and valuable, even though you don't have that interaction. So keep an open mind and take Lockie's ideas on board there. Great. So this is just a little action step in terms of making sure that you actually do deliver on your promises. Something that I've always recommended is your morning routine is probably the best time of day to make sure that you get all the most important and urgent tasks done. So in regards to you being the best coach you can be, use that morning period to send it through the WhatsApp group, message everyone, do your video feedback, etc. But once again, I'll leave that more for Lockie's presentation. And once again, we'll tip, if you're feeling like you're not doing enough during this period to help your clients and your athletes, you're probably not. So you probably should be doing more. And finally, this is obviously the final point in business. You need to have financial security in this time. So managing your finances and cutting anything that is non-essential to your business being operational at the back end of this is critical. So I would highly recommend entering negotiations with all your service providers, asking for extensions, deferrals, or terminations of your agreements if you can no longer service that or can no longer extract the value from that. And on this point, that's a tough conversation to have, but you can't help your athletes and your clients if you aren't here to see the end of this. And nor can the people who you're leasing equipment off or whatever it might be. They also won't have business at the back end if you don't survive. So your survival is critical to get through this. So you have to be willing to enter negotiations. And I do have a little tip here on the next slide to head to a guy called Chris Vosk from the Black Swan Group. He does essentially a free presentation on negotiations and how to enter negotiations to get a win for you. So definitely go and do that. I think that's a hot tip. But finally, the action step on this is print out your last 6 weeks of bank statements and then go through with a pen and highlighter of everything that is essential and non-essential. Once you find out any non-essential items, call those people, enter negotiations, cancel those agreements, suspend them, defer them, whatever you need to do to stay alive. And on that note, I might pass it over to Lockie.
You still a hot tip?
That's a hot tip, so I've done that already. Yes, and obviously I have tried to teach about 50,000 words worth of content in 14 minutes 50. Lockie's going to kill me because I've gone overtime. But that is some content there for you to kind of digest. It's Fitness MBA course. It's completely free. There's some incredible content in there, and it will certainly help you through this period. What else, Lockie?
It's the quickest he's ever done it. So, guys, jumping in, obviously, if you don't know us and Athletes Authority, as you can tell, Carl does the business side of it, and I try to manage the coaching side. So, obviously, when it comes to financial issues, Carl's the one that has our back and manages to create solutions as I try and spend more and more money. But with the coaching side, obviously, with the COVID issue, it's something that I had to adapt to as well and try to get my online coaching back in involvement. So realistically, the first thing we had to look at is exactly what Carl said, back to basics. What are going to be the big things that we need to maintain regardless of the plan that we do? One of them, coach interaction. We need to keep our athletes interacting with us regardless. Doesn't matter if it's not face-to-face, but they have to be interacting, because if they're not interacting, then we lose them. They either get sucked down the rabbit hole of YouTube and CrossFit, or they get sucked down the rabbit hole of another trainer or anything like that. We'd like to back ourselves and say we'd outdo them, but there's no point if we don't have interaction with them. So the second part is a consistent program. We need to deliver something that they will, A, do and enjoy, but B, be able to get into a routine and do consistently. So there's no point us, programming Olympic snatches 3 times a week and they don't have the equipment. These are the type of things we had to come up with. Okay, coach interaction, and how do we actually deliver a consistent program? So jumped back to the drawing board, and we had a couple of ones. We went through a few phases in almost what felt like 36 hours. Was probably the longest 36 hours of our lives trying to find a solution. Plan A was a rehab option. Now, for those of you that have been following Scott Morrison quite a bit, you would realise that there were some, leeway given to physiotherapy setups and rehab setups with exercise physiology options to try and get people still in the gym, to do small group rehab training, everything like that. We did one morning of it, and we realised we just walking the line way too finely with this. It became too much of a hassle, and it wasn't going to deliver the product we wanted to do, consistency and long term, because we knew that we were going to get probably stricter than what we were currently dealing with. So for us, it wasn't a long-term solution. So plan B, we started to go the outdoor option, back to our fitness first days, and pack everything into the van, which took about 4 hours to do, drive it down a local park, set it all up, and would you believe it was pissing with rain day one. That is all our equipment getting soaked, getting wet, and getting very, very smelly. So although it was a fun session, don't get me wrong, the athletes had a good time. It certainly wasn't the product we wanted to deliver for the next possibly 6 months. It certainly wasn't our solution. Now, for some people, it is the solution. If you're a smaller facility, you have less athletes, you have less equipment, then it's an easy solution. It was not the solution for us. Plan C we looked at is, why don't we get home packs delivered? Unfortunately, we weren't the first people to think of that. And every single person in Australia decided to order a home gym at the same time. And we simply found out that there was no way we could actually get the amount of supplies we needed. Therefore, plan D was redistribute our gym. So at the end of the day, we need to look at what was valued to us, and the facility as we knew it was no longer any use. We couldn't get anyone in there. This is actually us drying out our equipment after our raining session, by the way. But we knew that there's no point holding on to a dream of this nice facility when we can't use it. So we broke it down, split it up. Probably one of the most depressing days of our lives, breaking our own gym down. But we knew this was going to be the solution long term. We knew this is how the athletes were going to, A, be consistent with their program, and B, keep in contact with us, because a part of their weekly package is to have all this equipment. They're not paying extra for it. That's the package: programming, coaching, and the equipment. So this is all in one hit. So we'd break it all up. This is one of our example packs that we had for one of our athletes. We basically split the packs up based on what the athlete's requirement was. So you can see here a little breakdown of each of the athletes' packs. Some of our senior athletes were barbell, trap bar, and lots of plates. Our younger athletes, or LTAD, were sort of a kettlebell, sliders, med ball, and things like that. And basically that separated our two groups. So the barbell and trap bar group came to me, and the dumbbell and kettlebell group went to Carl, and managed to create a little bit more consistent programming and the ability to actually implement something that they could have as their routine And the love that we got for this and the people that the feedback that came was just unbelievable. They didn't expect it, which is great. That's a part of us under promising and over delivering. So probably the one thing we really did is probably the opposite of what a lot of people did, which was against logic, is we actually went out and while everyone was sort of trying to consolidate, we actually ended up expanding. So you heard Carl talk previously about ringing all the athletes that used to be with us, that had gone into school programs or elite programs that had left us. And we basically touched base and said, well, do you want to come back on board now? There's nothing for you. And we actually accumulated all these athletes coming on board. We had to actually go find more gear for them. We'd run out of gear. So Chris Caviglio connected us with all of his blood pressure cuffs. So we bought a whole heap of stuff off him for athletes to start with. We went out driving to warehouse throughout Sydney and Wollongong to buy all sorts of equipment, from plates and bars and kettlebells through to trap bars that we got delivered. More of these coming through. And also what we hadn't used for a long time, but the old core or power bags. We went to Bunnings, you can see on the right, to buy sliders. We went to Alpha Fit to try and buy some stuff. We went to Chalk Strength. We went to Iron Edge, obviously. We went to everyone that could possibly supply anything for us. And we did actually come up with quite a bit of equipment that realistically did fit out a lot of our athletes. And we've brought on a fair amount of athletes that we never had prior to this. And we've expanded our operation from where we were at the beginning. And we see that as an investment. And we spent close to 20K on new equipment.
A little bit more than that.
A little bit, we bought stuff I didn't realise. And that sort of commitment from us is to say, right, we want to be able to expand now, because we know the more people we have connection with now, the better we'll be off after this. Because at the end of the day, this is one of the hills. The second big hills, once we all come back and people don't have the expendable income, people have lost connection with gyms, everything like that. I don't think it's going to be a fairy tale return like some people think it might be. So for us, it's trying to secure as many people as we can now to keep contact with and reach out. So when we return, we have more chance of survival.
And just quickly on that point, from an economics perspective, we did spend around $25,000 worth of gear, which is completely contrary to what most people are doing, as like you said, against logic. But on a purely economics perspective, we were able to service about 20 athletes that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to service. And at $100 per week or thereabouts, it doesn't take very long to get that money back in return of servicing the athletes. And what we're not remembering is that gear comes back to us. It's on loan. It's not there. So when we will kind of come out of this with a surplus of equipment that allows for expansion opportunities, that allows us to create a new product line if we stay with at home training options. So you've got to see where the opportunities are. And this was absolutely one of them.
100%. One of the big things that I was fairly contingent on is trying to make sure that what we delivered at Athletes Authority was almost identical to what we're going to deliver at home. Obviously, we don't have the face-to-face, and obviously we don't have the expansive amount of equipment. But what we do have is Team Builder, which was consistent when we were based at AA. So athletes were very used to opening their phones and jumping onto Team Builder. And what we had was a bit of a system, a way that we programmed, the way we structured our programs that our athletes understood. So you can see here, if we look at, say, the Tuesday, you can see we've got a COVID curler. That was one of our team names, so ignore that for a second. But RGP is our Release Grease Prime. So that's something we did in the gym. When they arrived at Athletes Authority, we did a Release Grease Prime. Once we did that, we then went into our Velocity Block, which is our light implement power or heavy implement power, jumping, bounding, throwing, all those type of things. So again, that stays consistent. They have an RGP to warm up with. They have a Velocity Block, whether they're at home or in the park. They then have a strength block. You'll see there's still a strength block there. We still have an A sequence, a B sequence, a C sequence. We still have key lifts that look very similar to what they did at AA. Perhaps there might be some higher rep ranges just based off the lack of equipment when it comes to being able to load up things, or more single leg stuff, but it looks the same. They understand the feeling. They understand the context of everything. We look there, we've even got our resilience at the end. They're still chasing adductor resilience or hamstring resilience, whatever it might be for their sport, for the individual. They are very consistent in the program they have based off what they used to do at Athletes Authority. So it is still positioned for them. They still feel like it's something that's going to make a change for them because it's been making a change for them previously. So there's no reason why they shouldn't keep pushing forward. The only difference is now you can see on that Friday and Monday in this example program, we've got our conditioning sessions. So we had to get a little bit more creative with that and go out and film a whole heap of conditioning drills and make sure they were in there, because we weren't going to be able to take them for their running mechanic work or anything like that. They had to do that on their own. So we've got that there. The benefit of it is we then, obviously with the job helper payment that came out, we were able to keep a couple of our coaches on board. So Carl had a brilliant idea of, well, why don't we start getting them out to do some one-on-one things? So we actually have 2 of our assistant coaches that head out every week, three times a week for majority of it, and work majority with our younger guys or our new guys that have come on board. But they go over to their house to do a one-on-one session with them, which is brilliant. It adds to the program, doesn't cost us anything more, it doesn't cost the athlete anything more, but it adds so much more value and so much more coach connection and keeps routine and keeps consistency. And I can't tell you how many messages Carl gets from parents about that, and the connection they build is unbelievable. So that's the type of thing we want to do. Find anything and every avenue we can to try and keep them consistent and keep pushing them forward. Lastly, even though we've got a little bit over time, so I hope someone doesn't kill me. WhatsApp. I think everyone's used WhatsApp a bit. Watsy, in his preso about Melbourne, talked about the WhatsApp and what he's been doing there, which has been great. We do exactly the same thing. We have a all-club WhatsApp called the Mothers Group, which is a hell of a lot of banter and sometimes gets too much. But we did split our WhatsApp crew into the Rona Rebels and COVID Curlers, so 2 teams. So they're fighting it out at the moment, week to week, trying to find extra points. And we do deliver challenges. So week 1 challenges on the left with their plank, and week 2 challenges on the right. And we've even learned things with that. Week 1, one of our boys did 11 minutes and posted it, and he was the first one to post it, and no one even attempted it. So that was a bit of a waste. So you can see in the second COVID challenge, we told him you cannot post it. You can only send it to us, and we'll announce the winner at the end of it. So it's been really good. People have been buying in, been having a bit of fun, bit of banter going around, and we give them actual prizes back. In this case, that they win their next week for free. And then they're accumulating points each week. We're 1 all at the moment. We're yet to decide what they get at the end, but we'll wait and see how long we go on for, I guess.
We're thinking maybe like shirts for the winning team or something like that. That's a unique
one
shirt
release
that we only print once or something like that.
But we'll figure it out, I'm sure. But guys, really appreciate the time. Sorry we've gone over a little bit. That's, I think, sitting at 26 minutes, so apologies. But if you want to reach out to us on Instagram, email, either one of us, whether it's more business orientated, more coaching orientated, or anything else during this time, any way we can help, shoot us an email, let us know, because we'd love to help anyone we can and help you guys keep pushing through.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.